Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share with you the story of a friend of mine. A friend who had a dream of being part of a loving, supportive, beautiful family. For the sake of this story, we'll call her Deborah. When Deborah was 2.5 years old, she was given up for adoption along with her twin brother, Darren. They were put into the foster care system, which can be a great experience for many children. However, it was not a great experience for Deborah and Darren. Their foster parents were verbally, physically, and emotionally abusive. I remember a story Deborah told me about her foster parents when they finally adopted them. It was when the kids were 13 years old. And the reason their foster parents decided to adopt them was not because they loved the children so much. It was because a new law was passed that allowed them to get more money from the government by adopting Deborah and Darren than by just keeping them as foster children. Deborah and Darren now had a new mother, a new father, and a sister who was the daughter of their foster parents. Deborah's parents made her keep her hair cut very, very short, like a little boy. I believe it was because they were afraid that if she were allowed to grow out her hair, it would bring into question the beauty of their own daughter. Deborah told me one time about going to a roller skating rink. They had one color of roller skates for the boys and one color roller skates for the girls. For whatever reason, they were out of Deborah's size and the proper color. So that day, she wore boy roller skates. Now the time in the day came around for a couple skate. And Deborah skated over to a young man to ask him to hold hands and skate with her. The disco ball was spinning and a love song played loud over the PA system. But the little boy recoiled in disgust. He said, "I would never hold hands and skate around with a boy like you." And he called her all sorts of derogatory names. Despite this experience, Deborah held on to her dream of one day being part of a loving, supportive, beautiful family. Now, things weren't much easier for her brother Darren being a male. You see, Darren had epilepsy, which caused him to have seizures. His foster parents took him to the hospital once, but the doctors couldn't find out what was wrong. So his parents started saying that he was having the seizures simply to get attention. And Darren received no more medical attention, no more help for his seizures. You can understand why, when Darren was just 15 years old, he had finally had enough, and he decided to take his own life. So he went around the house and he found all the medication he could and he took it all and he went to sleep. He awoke several hours later, which is when he took a loaded gun, pointed it at his own stomach, and pulled the trigger. I know this story so well because I've heard it from Darren's own lips. I've seen the scar on his stomach. Darren told me that when he got out of the hospital, his new parents sent him to live with his grandparents. And they asked questions like, how could he do this to us? How could he do this to us? Back to Deborah, who was now alone in this home, still hanging on to her dream of one day being part of a beautiful, loving, supportive family. Because she knew that someday she would find her real parents. And she knew that she would discover that they were loving, compassionate people who, for some reason, out of their own control, had to give up their 2 beautiful children. When she was 18, she finally tracked them down. And I still remember the tone of disappointment in Deborah's voice when she told me about meeting her real parents. She found out that her mother was mentally unstable and that her father never even wanted kids. She also found out that After having Deborah and Darren, they had 2 more kids that they also gave up for adoption. Ladies and gentlemen, Deborah is my mother. And can you blame my mother for being an alcoholic? Can you blame her for being physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive? Can you blame her for being just another link in this chain? She was following the only example she had. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm here tonight to tell you that my mother is none of those things. My mother is loving, caring, supportive, sober, and she has beautiful long hair. She's an incredible mother and an incredible grandmother. She took the only example she was given, an example of how not to be, and she turned it around. She held on to her dream of one day being part of a loving, supportive, beautiful family. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm here tonight to tell you, I don't know what you've been through. I don't know what challenges you've faced. But I do know one thing, and that's that no matter how many times life has torn you down, no matter how many times someone has tried to take your dreams from you, I'm here to tell you that your dreams are not gone. They're simply waiting for you to make them a reality.